The girl was astonished to notice that the bathroom light was acting strangely tonight. She clearly remembered turning the lights off when she left, but somehow the lights came back on by themselves. At first, she thought she might have remembered it wrong. Exhausted, she got up and turned the lights off again. But just as she returned to bed ready to fall asleep, the lights inexplicably came on again. Frustrated, the girl assumed it was an electrical fault, so she simply removed the bulb altogether. However, just as she lay back down again, something bizarre happened. Looking at the bulb she had placed beside the bed, she was utterly stunned. Just as she was feeling uneasy and confused, a pair of hands suddenly appeared on the wooden door of the bathroom. This is the 2025 American thriller, 825 Forest Road. The film is based on the widely discussed Forest Road incident, circulating on North American internet forums. According to rumors, the old house depicted in the movie actually exists. The story begins with a simple house viewing experience. In a peculiar town called Ashland Falls in America, Chuck and his girlfriend Maria are led by a real estate agent to inspect an old house they intend to make their home. They decided to purchase it after Maria carefully observed the layout, finding the old house spacious and well ventilated, with excellent lighting. More importantly, the owner was eager to sell quickly, offering it at 1/3 below market price. Convinced that the house had no issues, Chuck signed the purchase agreement. Early the next morning, the family eagerly moved in. However, on their very first day in the new house, Chuck frustratingly discovered a water leak. He took some pictures, planning to ask the agent to handle it. Initially, Chuck expected the agent might try to dodge responsibility, but surprisingly, she immediately agreed to help and even suggested Chuck inspect the house further for any other problems. Surprised by her cooperative attitude, Chuck began a thorough inspection of the house. While Chuck was busy inspecting, a neighbor named Larry suddenly called out to him.
I thought this house was going to sit on the market forever. My name's Larry.
I'm Chuck. Thought this place was a ghost town. Haven't really met anybody yet.
That will happen in these old homes. Ugh, sorry to hear that. Pain in the ass.
Upon learning someone had died by suicide in the old house, Chuck finally understood why the price had been so low. It was haunted. Chuck felt irritated that the real estate agent hadn't mentioned anything about this. He photographed the problematic areas again and sent them to the agent, but while organizing the pictures, Chuck noticed something unusual. He was certain there had been no shotgun near the leaking area, yet inexplicably, there was now a shotgun in the photo. Chuck figured he must have been mistaken and didn't think much of it. After sending the photos to the agent, Chuck mentioned the haunting. The agent was stunned. Apparently, she knew nothing about the incident. She told Chuck to wait while she checked with the original owner. If this was true, the company would surely offer compensation. To apologize, she promised the company would cover all repair costs for the water leak. Chuck was satisfied with the agent's response. Even though the house felt somewhat ominous, they didn't particularly mind. But Chuck had no idea that the house's issues went far beyond simple hauntings. Early the next morning, Chuck visited the town's library to look into its history. He had previously read online about a haunted house named 825 Forest Road, rumored to devour anyone who entered. While researching, Chuck noticed a strange woman squatting in the library aisle, seemingly distressed. Being friendly, Chuck was about to check on her when she suddenly lifted her head.
Don't do it.
Listen.
It's real. It's all real.
The bizarre woman startled Chuck, who hurried to the front desk with the materials he found. Seeing Chuck had borrowed some historical books, the librarian guessed he was looking for information on 825 Forest Road. She told him not to waste his time. Such a house didn't exist, and everything online was just a rumor. Chuck shrugged it off as idle curiosity and returned home. Back home, just as Chuck was about to delve into the town's history, his student Olivia unexpectedly arrived. Chuck was a music teacher, and Olivia, who had a piano exam the following week, had come for extra guidance. Chuck instructed her to go familiarize herself with the piano in the living room, while he went to the kitchen for a glass of water. Soon, beautiful piano music drifted in from the living room. Chuck was confident Olivia was well prepared for her exam. However, when he glanced up, he was shocked to see Olivia standing in the hallway.
There's a woman at the piano.
A woman?
If Olivia was in the hallway, then who was playing the piano? Puzzled, they both went into the living room, but the music abruptly stopped. The living room was empty. This strange event frightened Chuck and Olivia. Could there really be something supernatural in the house? But this wasn't the end of the strange occurrences. That evening, Chuck attended a gathering in town to build relationships with neighbors. Upon arriving, an elderly man was recounting a tragic incident from decades ago. A girl had died tragically at school. Her mother, Helen, desperately sought justice, but the town's corrupt police station had instead detained her. Helen, driven by despair, eventually took her own life. Following Helen's death, strange occurrences plagued the town. Within 3 months, 8 people died by suicide, all of them either involved in bullying Helen's daughter or related to those bullies. Residents believed Helen had returned for revenge. The site of Helen's death was reportedly the infamous 825 Forest Road, making it even more notorious online, despite the fact that no Forest Road actually existed in town. Despite these chilling stories, Chuck wasn't frightened. He found it oddly intriguing. While Chuck chatted with the locals, his younger sister Isabel, resting at home, experienced terrifying events. Just as Isabel was about to sleep, she noticed the bathroom light was still on. Initially assuming she forgot, she got up and turned it off. Yet moments after lying down, the bathroom light mysteriously turned on again. Frustrated, she thought the switch was faulty, so she removed the bulb entirely. But again, as she lay down, the light turned back on. Seeing the bulb placed on the table, Isabel felt deeply unsettled. At that moment, the bathroom door suddenly swung open. When Isabel opened her eyes again, it was the next morning. Believing last night's events had been a dream, she turned around only to see the bulb still sitting on the table. Disturbed by this, Isabel suspected the house was haunted. She called her friend Luke, asking for help to move back to campus. While packing her belongings, she suddenly saw Luke upstairs. Confused, Isabel wondered how he had entered without her opening the door. Luke pointed to a family photo on the table, saying the elderly woman in the picture had let him in. Hearing this, Isabel froze. The elderly woman was her mother, who had passed away months earlier. Luke was equally stunned upon hearing this. If Isabel's mother was dead, then who exactly had opened the door for him? As the two stood there confused, they suddenly heard the sound of a plate shattering downstairs. Isabel went to check, but there was no one in the kitchen, only a pile of broken plates on the floor. Thinking breakfast had simply been left out carelessly, she picked up a broom to clean up. But just as she turned around, she saw Maria staring at her in terror. Isabel was about to speak when she turned her head and saw something horrifying. A terrifying, ghostly face made both Isabel and Maria scream and run back to their room. But the nightmare was only beginning. Back in her room, Maria was horrified to find the locked door had been kicked open, but there was nothing in the hallway. Just as she leaned forward to look, a strange cracking noise came from under the bed. Maria looked up, but the room was completely empty. The terrifying scene left her trembling. When Chuck returned, Maria told him everything that had happened that day. It reminded Chuck of the rumors their neighbors had mentioned before. Could this house be where the people who once bullied Helen's daughter had lived? For the safety of his family, he decided they needed to move out. Just then, Luke showed up at the house with a map. After the strange events that happened earlier, Luke remembered an old legend about the town. He had found the town's old utility map and discovered a place called Forest Road. That road, according to the map, was located across the river on the other side of town. And to lift the curse, the only solution was to burn down the house. Only by putting Helen's vengeful spirit to rest would the haunting stop. To get to the bottom of this, Chuck decided to visit the old house. But just as he was about to leave, the real estate agent showed up with a photographer. Turns out Chuck had agreed to help shoot a promotional video in exchange for a discount when buying the house. But with everything going on, Chuck had no time to film. He was about to make an excuse when, suddenly, the previously weak and tired Maria came downstairs looking full of energy. She volunteered to help with the shoot instead. Seeing Maria in such high spirits, Chuck didn't think much of it and drove off with Isabel to the river. In the woods near the riverbank, they found an abandoned house. Chuck searched around but couldn't find any house number. To confirm whether this was the infamous 825 Forest Road, Chuck and Isabel stepped inside. In a hallway metal box, Luke discovered several letters. He opened them and found they were all written by Helen. Letters sent to the school pleading for justice. Unfortunately, the school had been unregulated at the time, and every complaint had been dismissed. Determined, Helen had then written letters to the families of every abuser, cursing them to die painfully and warning that everyone involved would face retribution. Not long after, Helen took her own life in that house. One of the letters listed a familiar address, 15 Rose Lane. That was Chuck's current home. It turned out the house was cursed because it once belonged to the family of one of the abusers. Realizing the truth, Chuck grabbed Isabel and rushed to leave. But as he turned, he saw Isabel standing frozen in the doorway. There was a hand on her shoulder. Chuck tried to run and save her, but Helen dragged both of them into the room. Meanwhile, back at the house, Maria was recording the promotional video. To everyone's surprise, she began talking about how Helen's daughter had once been bullied. The real estate agent thought Maria had gone off script and was about to stop her, but suddenly the camera began to violently shake. Everyone in the old house was brutally murdered. And that's the full story of 825 Forest Road, a thrilling horror film released in 2025. Overall, the movie delivers decent quality and solid scares. That's it for today's review. See you next time.